Hi, my name is Brianne Ramsey, founder and CEO of Rocky Mountain Cannabis Consulting. We know cannabis compliance is complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. RMCC helps cannabis operators and cannabis seed-to-sale software companies with regulatory and compliance needs in all metric and BioTrack states. Recently, I was asked, how do we determine our technology partnerships? And I'd love to detail a little bit more on what our process is. Similar to an ERP consultant implementing an enterprise solution, RMCC assesses, develops, implements, and trains compliant operations across the supply chain to support the cannabis business's longevity. Recently, I was asked, how does RMCC determine what is the right platform for a cannabis operator? And I was also asked, how does RMCC stay unbiased between all 15 of our technology partners? Before I answer these questions, I'd like to communicate. In my eyes, what is important is the operator's opinion of the third-party platform. Not mine, not my team's, and definitely not the third-party solution. The reason why the operator's opinion is what matters the most is because without them, without their plant-touching operation, none of us would be here. None of us would probably have a job or a company within the cannabis industry. These plant-touching operators across the supply chain are the ones that are truly putting their livelihood and business and even families on the line. This is also why I'll never be able to find a favorite metric integrated or BioTrack integrated third-party solution. The reason why is my opinion does not matter. It's the operator's opinion that matters because that third-party solution is there to help support and increase efficiencies within the operation. Also, my recommendations change from state to state. What operation type that the operator is operating in within the supply chain, and also the scale of the operation. However, I want to give back to the cannabis community. So in this video, I'm going to detail what RMCC's methods are and how we determine what the best third-party solution system might be the best fit for a cannabis operator. I also hope by making this video, some third-party providers out there listen to this video and actually take this advice and come to the table prepared during their demonstrations or if they decide to interact with RMCC. So first and foremost, define your language. Every state has different naming conventions, definitions, and requirements. During these demos or while you're interacting with licensed operators, you need to make sure that everyone is on the same page. When an operator asks, how do you purchase order this inventory item in? They want to see an exact purchase order with reporting, not how to add in inventory. Or when you're looking at batches and lots. Batches and lots are two different terms. For an example, we could have a harvest batch, but we might have smaller testing lots within that harvest batch. So again, you need to make sure that you are all on the same page when you're using the correct naming conventions and defining your language when you're interacting with licensed operators. And if you don't know, it's totally okay. It is okay to stop the conversation, pause, and ask, what do you define this as? And maybe create a spreadsheet or something along that nature to make sure that you are recording all of these different terms and what the client actually defines these terms as. My second piece of advice, know the laws. Every single state is different. Supply chains are different. Testing requirements are different. Everything from state to state is different because, as we know, we are not federally legalized yet. And because we have no federal standard, every state is operating differently. A few additional examples that can change from state to state is licensing structure and how the supply chain is impacted. Where in the supply chain is the testing taking place? Packaging and labeling are different from state to state. Purchase limits are different from state to state. Some have or statements, some have and statements, and sometimes those are just determined by the punctuation within the regulations. So again, you need to make sure that your software is always adapting and making sure that these licensed operators are truly in compliance and you are not putting their operation out of compliance because you wanted to land a sale and not having compliant software for this licensed operator. My third piece of advice is for licensed operators. Have a questionnaire. Get together all of the questions that are important to you from a compliance and operations and a reporting standpoint. And if you can, any beneficial features that you really need. I also have some clients that have standards that say they need to interact with some level of leadership within that technology provider, or they have a centralized database, or they have automated reporting. So that way you can always get those reports at the exact same time each day, week, or month. These are different features that are extremely important for operators to think about and to have within their questionnaire and determine if it is make or break if they need that within that platform. Here within RMCC, we have a 3-phase assessment. And each phase through that assessment becomes more and more challenging for the third-party technology solution. This assessment includes state-specific compliance requirements, operational requirements, reporting, and nice-to-have features. And this assessment is based off of a sliding scale depending on how user-friendly that feature or that requirement is. And there's also just a straight up yes or no. You have it or you don't. And when it comes to the metric API, it is exactly that. You are either utilizing that metric endpoint within that specific state or you are not. And if you are not using it in that specific state, personally, I really do not want to hear that you have it already built out in another state. Yes, it is reproducible, but as we know, things change state to state, and there are different attributes within that endpoint that is different from state to state. So again, ask very detailed, targeted questions. You need to know what questions to ask. My fourth suggestion is again for licensed operators. And what I would recommend is with this questionnaire that you develop a matrix, so some type of spreadsheet with all of these different features, and each row is comparing all of the different third-party solutions you are interviewing and demoing. That will help you compare and contrast all of the different softwares and really bring to light which platform is going to be the best for your operation. And then finally, again, for licensed operators, don't just take the salesperson's word for it. If they are doing a demo and they're in the wrong state, ask them to move to the right state for the demo. If they cannot do it, do not move forward with the remaining of that demo until they are in your actual operation state. Also, ask targeted, direct questions. You need to make sure that you all are on the same page, and you need to visually see that they can actually handle that workflow or feature or reporting that you're requesting. I hear a lot of times that people can't do testing in the API sandbox. I understand that package tags are challenging, but if you are doing a demo with RMCC, I expect that you do have API sandbox access and that you will show the full workflow within the metric integration. And as a licensed operator, you should request the same thing. You never want to get into a situation where you are oversold to from that technology provider, and instead you go through implementation and realize halfway through, this platform is not a good fit. So you need to ask the right targeted questions to get the clear, concise answers that you are looking for. I also recommend to receive examples of reports, also for labels, any other compliance related or reporting related features that you need. Definitely get all of these different examples from these third-party solutions, because the last thing you want to do is either get through implementation and realize it's not a good fit, or even worse, implement a software and then go implement another new software a year or 2 years later. implementation takes a long time for everyone, not only to implement, not only to reconcile your inventory records, but also think of all of that labor cost and training that goes into play with a new system. You need to ensure you're making the right decision the first time. If you want to learn more about why RMCC is qualified to speak on this topic, visit our podcast, TBD with RMCC, on all streaming platform channels, or go to our website, rmcc.io. We have our online training platform, blog posts, and a ton of other free resources for technology providers and licensed operators to ensure you can always stay in compliance.